AS11 The Effect of Changes in Foreign Exchange Rates by M.F. Jason. Thanks to MT Educare. MT Educare was committed to take education to every home with their teachers by using technology. Subscribe to my channel for more interesting updates.
So we are on to AS11. So one of the important standard. So usually at a final level we cover the second generation standards from 15 onwards. So in this 15 to 32 standards, so far pending standards are very small standards, AS 24, 25, 26. Apart from that, a significant standard, 29 is a provision, contingent asset, contingent liability. Apart from that, one of the significant standard is AS 11, the effects of changes in foreign exchange rates. Effects of changes in foreign exchange rates. See, this standard, which got amended in the year 2003, it was existing for a long number of years. In the year 2003, when it was amended, it started creating controversy. The standard creating a lot of headache and controversy to the institute, to various interested parties, and still the controversy is on. So let us understand about this standard, the effects of changes in foreign exchange rate. It covers only limited aspects of foreign exchange, very simple issues it covers. It covers three parts: accounting for foreign currency transaction, translation, accounting for forward contract. That way it is covering three aspects of foreign exchange. One is called accounting for foreign currency transaction. The other one is accounting for forward contract. The other one is translation. A business enterprise can make transaction in foreign currency. So first of all, to know the standard, you should be knowing two currency. One is reporting currency. The other one is foreign currency. Reporting currency is the currency based on which the financial statements are prepared. Reporting currency is the measurement for the preparation of financial statements of an enterprise. So we will not say rupees. It is the based on which we prepare the financial statements. Foreign currency is a currency other than reporting currency. So in a simple language, we understand these two currency. Everybody? Exchange rate refers to the ratio of foreign currency to the ratio of the foreign currency to the reporting currency. So it will be expressed as 1 unit of foreign currency, normally in a direct quote. So 1 unit of foreign currency in terms of several number of units of reporting currency. Understood? So this is how we understand. It's a simple language of reporting currency, foreign currency. Now let us move forward. Accounting for foreign currency transaction. What is accounting for foreign currency transaction? A business enterprise can make transaction in foreign currency in two ways. Either directly the transactions are made, or the transactions are made indirectly. What is direct? What is indirect? Directly means the transactions are made directly entered into by the business enterprise, the reporting enterprise. The other way of entering into foreign currency transaction is through a foreign operation. So this standard identifies only four different forms of foreign operations: subsidiary, joint venture, associate, branch. These are all the four different forms of foreign operation. So a business enterprise can make transaction in foreign currency in two ways: direct, indirect, through foreign operation. Understood? One is direct. Directly we are entering into few transactions directly denominated in foreign currency. We are buying goods from a foreign supplier. selling goods to a foreign customer, by taking loan from a foreign bank. All the transactions are in our normal local currency, reporting currency. One or two transactions we are making in foreign currency. The other one is that we have a foreign operation, and this foreign operation is into four forms. It is either subsidiary or joint venture, also AS 21, 23, 27, or branch, what you learn at your lower level. Understood? That way there could be four forms of foreign operation. So we have a branch at New York. So what happens? The New York will make all the transaction in foreign currency. Understood? Actually, through New York branch, who is making the transaction? It's the head office. Could you appreciate that? So thereby we understand that a business enterprise making transaction either directly or through foreign operation. When we make direct transaction, what is involved is accounting. Everybody? When we make the transaction through foreign operation, what is involved is translation. If you take the crude form of both actually involves only translation, not accounting. So it is not prescribing the accounting requirements of recognizing asset, liability, income, expense. It is actually both are involving translation. So when I purchase goods from a foreign supplier for $10,000, what value I should record in my books in terms of rupees? So the dollar should be converted into rupees is what I am going to learn in first part. Correct? Even though I call it as accounting, but that is only a translation. Everybody? But here what is involved is that transaction to transaction we don't translate. We do not translate the transaction by transaction. We translate only the summarized information, that too only in the event of preparation of financial statements. Understood? So thereby, though both are translation, in what way it is different means, this is real-time translation. The first part is, that is the moment transaction is made, it gets immediately translated. Understood? What we are going to primarily learn is that a foreign currency being converted into reporting currency. Informations in foreign currency getting translated into reporting currency. In fact, all three are actually indirectly dealing with what? Translation. Understood? So at that too specifically we are discussing about the rate that we should be using for the translation and the incidental accounting effects. So predominantly the standard is actually dealing with prescribing the rate to be used for translating information translating information which are reported in foreign currency into reporting currency. That is what we are going to learn through AS 11. Could you appreciate that? So thereby first we are understanding the difference between basic accounting and, so this is in relation to translation, is in relation to foreign operation, which means the transactions are made by whom? Transactions are made by foreign operation. The transactions are made by, it was accounted by foreign operation in foreign currency. Understood? All the transactions are made by foreign operation, accounted by foreign operation, and reported in foreign operation. Now, in the event of combining the financial statements, then we need the information in reporting currency. That is what we try in the event of translation. Understood? But in the first part, what we are going to discuss is that we make the transaction, we make the accounts, and thereby the transaction should be immediately translated. In case of a branch located at New York making a purchase or sales, and sales for $10,000, they will record as $10,000. Collection $6,000, then they will reduce that debtors by $6,000. And what we will be translating at the end of the year is only 4,000 debtors. Could you appreciate that? But here when I am going to make $10,000 sold, I will translate $10,000. I collected $6,000, I will translate $6,000. Remaining $4,000 when I am collecting, that time I will translate once again. Could you appreciate that? So transaction by transaction will be translated in case of accounting for foreign currency transaction. But here it is not transactions which are getting translated. It is a accounting information, which is a summarized information of assets, liabilities, incomes, expense. Accounts are only 4 items. Understood? What and all? Assets, liabilities, income, expense gets translated. Could you appreciate that? So first we are fixing a very clear objective of translation, that in first part we are learning translation but on transaction to transaction. In the second part we are learning translation but not transaction by transaction, only for the summarize the information. Could you appreciate that? Everybody? So these two we are just differentiated. The third one is accounting for forward contract. What is forward contract? A contract for purchase or sale of foreign currency. Either you are going to purchase or of foreign currency at a predetermined price, on a future date. Understood? A contract, presently a contract is entered into for purchase or sale of dollars at a predetermined price on a future date. Such forward contract can be entered into either for hedging or for speculation. The forward contract can be entered into either for hedging or for speculation. And I hope you understand hedging. So hedging is to protect against the risk, understanding, and we also have the speculation. Everybody? Okay, so that way we have three aspects. Just a general introduction about these three areas. The first one is accounting. The transaction, accounting for foreign currency transaction, it will be purchase of goods, sale of goods, purchase of asset, sale of asset, loans given or taken. So in any form, the transaction directly made in foreign currency, immediately converted into reporting currency. But here transactions are made in foreign currency, accounted in foreign currency, the summarized trial balance or the balance sheet will be translated into reporting currency. And third part is accounting for forward contract. Shall we? Okay. So now we are just focusing on the first part, which is accounting for foreign currency transaction. The first part is accounting for foreign currency transaction. Transaction should be recorded at the rate, at the exchange rate prevalent on the date of transaction. Transaction should be recorded at the rate prevailing on the date of transaction. So whatever transaction rates prevailing on the date of transaction should be used for translation. Then monetary items, if any, shall be restated to the closing rate exchange rate on the date of balance sheet or balance sheet date. Monetary items, if any, shall be restated to the closing rate. Exchange difference from restatement of monetary items will be recognized as exchange gain or loss in the statement of profit and loss. At the time of settlement of monetary items, the difference between the amount of settlement at the time of settlement of monetary item, the difference between the amount of settlement and the carrying amount. At the time of settlement of monetary item, the difference between the amount of settlement and the carrying amount will be recognized as gain or loss. Will be recognized as exchange gain or loss in the statement of P&L. At the time of settlement of monetary item, can I turn this page? Okay, I will show once again later. The amount of settlement, the difference between the amount of settlement and the carrying amount will be recognized as exchange gain or loss in the statement of P&L. See, before the amendment happened in the year 2013, 2003. Before this amendment which had happened in the year 2003, see, there is only one point of recognizing gain or loss. There was only one point. There were two significant changes that has been brought out by the amendment in the year 2003. One is, before 2003, there was only one point of recognizing gain or loss, that is only in the event of settlement. So you recognize, imagine you sold goods for $10,000. How much? At that time, exchange rate 50. Now later on, when you collected this amount, it happens to be 55 rupees. Everybody? So you would have recorded sales as 10,000 into 50, which is 5 lakhs. And later on, you collect 10,000 into 55, which is 5,50,000. Additional 50,000 you recovered will be booked as exchange gain in the year of collection. Now this amendment which has been brought in the year 2003 was this way, that suppose the balance sheet date comes in between. If the balance sheet date doesn't come, it's okay. If the balance sheet date comes in between, financial statements come in between what and what? The date of transaction and the date of settlement, then the monetary item shall be restated. So whatever you are recorded as debtors, so $10,000 which you are already recorded as 5 lakhs, on the date of balance sheet, imagine it is 52. On the date of balance sheet it is, then the difference between 50 and 52 should be booked as gain in that year, and then in the next year amount is to be collected. At that time it has become 55. So the difference between 52 and will be booked as gain in the year of collection. So it is 2-point recognition. One is on the date of balance sheet, the other one at the time of settlement. So there was no concept of restatement. There was no concept of restatement. Entire amount will be recognized as exchange gain or loss only in the year of settlement. Was an old provision. Correct. In valuation, we did one problem that the company was following a policy that they will book the entire income or loss only in the year of settlement. And when we went out for the valuation of goodwill, we felt that we are going to find out not the past profit, future maintainable profit. In future, they are going to follow the stricter version of AS 11 and they are going to book the income two ways. So thereby we converted the past profit into the revised AS 11. So that time we made a reference. Anyway, coming back to this issue, so this is a significant change that monetary items, if any, shall be restated to the closing rate. Everybody. Second change that happened in 2003 was that up to 2003, if there is any foreign currency loan relating to a depreciable asset, if there is any foreign currency loan relating to a depreciable asset, then the exchange difference from such loan, exchange difference from such will be adjusted against the asset, will be adjusted against the value of, and depreciation will be changed on a prospective basis. If there is any foreign currency loan relating to a asset, I took a loan, I bought the asset, or I directly purchased on loan only from a foreign company. Understood? In that case, the restatement of or that settlement of that foreign currency loan resulting into any gain will be adjusted against the value of asset. Loss means will be added, gain means it will be reduced. And that is scrapped. That concept is fully scrapped, and from 2003 onwards, any exchange gain or loss relating to goods or asset shall be booked only in statement of P&L. This is a stand of AS 11 revised. Could you appreciate that? And from this only controversy started. Everybody, from 2003 onwards, a real controversy started, because before 2003, the provision is that in relation to depreciable asset means you will adjust against cost of the asset, value of the asset. Could you appreciate that? The same provision was there in Schedule 6 also. The same provision was there in Schedule 6. The moment AS 11 got revised, then there was a serious conflict between Schedule 6 and AS 11. Let that conflict be there. How then it got resolved and all, we'll discuss later. Presently coming back to the accounting for foreign currency transaction. Shall we? We are discussing AS 11, the effects of changes in foreign exchange rates. So foreign currency means a currency other than a reporting currency. Reporting currency is the currency based on which the financial statements are prepared. Understood? Now we are discussing the various issues in relating to foreign exchange rates. Changes in the foreign exchange rate. We are discussing three aspects: foreign accounting for foreign currency transaction. A business enterprise, a reporting enterprise makes directly transaction in foreign currency, not through foreign operation, direct transaction. How to account it? Now translation involves a reporting currency makes transaction through a foreign operation, such as subsidiary, associate, joint venture, branch. And we will not have the branch related area which you would learn in lower level. We will be having subsidiary. So we are going to discuss one problem on to consolidation of foreign subsidiary. 4C approach like that or something was discussed. Correct? Let's see that line by line addition to what extent we can apply. Anyway, so we have a translation and then we have the accounting for forward contract. So in that first part was accounting for foreign currency transaction. Transaction, whatever made, should be recorded, should be translated immediately at the rate prevailing on the date of. Monetary items, if any, shall be restated to the. Then the question arises that what are monetary items? Monetary item refers to money held. Refers to money held, cash in hand, cash at bank, money. And other assets and liabilities expressed in fixed denomination of receivables and payables. So what are monetary items? Monetary items refers to money held When I say money held, it's not the money held in rupees, the money held in foreign currency. Understood? Money held and other assets and liabilities, which means only the assets and liabilities will be fitting into monetary item. If it is incomes and expenses, it is not monetary item. It is only the assets and liabilities. So that way you should be knowing money held and other assets and liabilities expressed in fixed denomination of receivables and payables. So monetary item refers to money held. So you should not ignore that part. Sometime we may hold the foreign currency also to a limited level. Understood? So to the allowed limit, we may hold some foreign currency. So monetary item refers to the money held and other assets and liability expressed in fixed denomination of receivables and payables. Everybody? Now, monetary items, if any, shall be restated to what rates? Closing rates. And the difference will be recognized in P&L as gain or loss. On the date of settlement, again some more difference arise. So we transacted at 50. On the balance sheet rate, exchange rate is 52. On settlement rate, exchange rate is 55, and that way we will be booking at the different fluctuations at different point of time, which was not there originally. All the difference used to be accounted only on the date of settlement. Now that we don't have such an issue, we'll be booking at different periods. Could you appreciate that? At the time of preparing financial statement, the exchange rates has to be determined, and accordingly you should be measuring, restating various monetary items. So you should understand what are monetary item. Suppose we bought one machinery. In our books, machinery will be there. So machinery is monetary item or non-monetary item? Is it monetary or non-monetary? Machinery. Non-monetary. Furniture. Building. Investment in shares. Investment in shares. Non-monetary. Please understand, investment in share can never be having fixed receivable. Are you following this? So thereby, bank deposit, monetary. Understood? A bank deposit is, so which means all investments are not non-monetary. There are monetary and non-monetary. Could you appreciate that? Stock, non-monetary. So stock is something what is valued, that doesn't represent a fixed receivable. When we say fixed receivable, it shouldn't realize any amount more than that or less than that. So indirectly there is a hint of there should be a contractual obligation or right to collect money or pay money. Could you appreciate that? So as such stock we have, it is only valued at the cost to price. It is not that nobody have guaranteed. Nobody have guaranteed that this much amount we will give. Correct? So stock is non-monetary item. Could you appreciate that? Everybody. Debtors, bills receivable, monetary item. Everybody. Okay. Loans receivable, monetary item. Creditors, taxation. Taxation. So taxation, if it is determined as tax payable, then it becomes monetary. If it is provision for tax, it is non-monetary. Generally provisions are only estimated. It doesn't represent an fixed payable, and thereby it is non-monetary. Could you appreciate that? Everybody? Okay. Bills payable, loans payable, debentures, monetary. Debentures, loans payable, everything monetary. Everybody? Okay. Share capital, non-monetary, because the share capital represents the amount contributed by the owners. That's all. It is not the company going to pay the fixed amount. Company having an obligation to pay that amount, not there. Could you appreciate that? So thereby share capital is, but if the preference capital redeemable and that amount specifies a specific denomination, definitely it becomes monetary items. Could you appreciate that? So generally equity capital will be what? Non-monetary. So that way you should be knowing what are monetary items. Sales சேல்ஸ் நான் மானிட்டரியா? நான் மானிட்டரி தான். நான் மானிட்டரி தான். Are you following this? So please understand, sales fixed than sir. It's not a question of fixed or variable. It is only the assets and liability which will be expressed as receivables and payables. That alone will be considered as monetary. Correct? All incomes and expense will be non-monetary. Understood? So credit sales. Credit sales. Non-monetary. So it's the accounting part of debtors, creditors. Monetary. Sales, non-monetary. Could you appreciate that? So we have sold goods. What entry will be making? US customer to sales. Respond. So now the US customer represents sales. I have recorded $10,000 into 50 rupees, 5 lakhs. Please respond. At the end of the year, I know it is not 50, it is 52. Everybody, I am going to collect money after 3 months after balance sheet date. So on the date of balance sheet, I restate to 52. Restate debtors and sales, or only debtors or only sales? Only debtors. So sales should be 5 lakhs or 5 lakh 20. Sales should be 5 lakhs only. Understood? The debtors which you are recorded at 5 lakhs will be restated to additional 20,000 income. Is not sales income, it is exchange difference, which is exchange gain. Understood? This is the point the standard says that. So that shouldn't be taken as sales income or purchase income. It should be booked separately as forex gain. Could you appreciate that? So these are the points we are just conveying. So thereby, transaction should be recorded at the rate prevailing on the date of monetary items, if any, shall be restated to the, that is exchange rate on the date of balance sheet. Exchange difference arising from restatement of monetary items will be recognized as exchange gain, or then at the time of settlement, once again the difference between the carrying amount in the balance sheet and or carrying amount and the settlement amount again will be booked as gain or monetary items, means what we discussed. Everybody, is that clear? Anyway, so before we discuss about the amendment that had happened after 2003, then in the year 2006, then in the year 2009, then in the year 2011, so like that, so many things happen in the in relation to AS11. Before we discuss that, so presently, what is the correct form of AS11? We have just learned for accounting for foreign currency. Prevailing provisions of AS11 is what we discussed. Understood? Now we like to apply that in a problem and work out the gain or loss and all, and then we'll come back to other issues. Shall we? Question number 1, page number 223. Local company whose year end is 31st March entered into the following transaction during the year 1011. On 1/4/2010, sell goods to customer A, US dollar 50,000, 1.25, 62,500. 30/6/2010, collects cash from customer A, US dollar 50,000, 1.20, it is 60,000. On 30th June 2010, converts dollar into currency, same into 60,000 local currency. 31st July 2010, purchase inventories from suppliers, yen 1 lakh, 0.85, 85,000. 31/8/2010, pay suppliers B out of local currency account, 0.83, 83,000. 30th September 2010, sell goods on extended credit. So pound 50,000, 1.25, 12 lakh 50,000. Then we have, see 50,000 into 1.25, how much? 62? That correction you have to make. How much is that? 62,000. Fine. Buy plant on credit for 1 year, 2 lakhs at 1.80, it is 3 lakh 60,000. Then borrows funds repayable in 2 years time 1 lakh yen 0.82 8 lakh 82,000 அது இது மாற்றி வேண்டாம் 82,000 converts yen to currency it is 82,000 at March 2011 the exchange rate were as follows US dollar 1 equal to in local currency 1.30 இதெல்லாம் which yearல possible sir அப்படின்னு don't ask you just use the term local currency not rupees. Great Britain pound it is local currency 2 rupees and yen for 100 it is local currency 80 so for 1.8. What is the exchange gain or loss for the year and how should this be treated? Assume that the net realizable value of the inventories is much higher than the cost. Fixed assets are carried at cost less accumulated depreciation. So these are the information given. I will like to book exchange gain or exchange loss for each of the transactions separately and then we will work out the aggregate of exchange gain or loss. Shall we? Okay. We find the first two transaction gets completed in the same accounting period 10-11. The first two transactions, one transaction is selling goods to a customer at US. Everybody? The other one is purchasing inventory from a supplier. Everybody? And then we have the other transaction. One is selling goods, purchase of plant, borrowing. These three transactions doesn't get settled or expired in the same accounting period. So here it is only direct settlement and here we find the restatement. Could you appreciate that? I repeat, the first two transactions are made and got settled in the same accounting period. The last three transactions, total of 5 transactions are there. The last 3 transactions has been made but no settlement happened. What is requiring is restatement on the date of balance sheet. Are you following? So these are the things we should be knowing. So from the first 2 we'll be getting gain or loss from settlement. From the last 3 we'll be getting gain or loss from restatement. And all together is only exchange gain or exchange loss. Shall we? Okay. Let us take one by one information. The first one. Okay. Statement showing the computation of exchange gain or loss for the year 10-11. Transaction value recorded amount of settlement or restatement, exchange gain or exchange loss. So we are applying simple concept only. Don't think we are just learning many things. Whatever we are just written in points. Transaction initially recorded the rate prevailing on the date of transaction. Monetary item will be restated or it will be settled. You will get gain or loss in 2 points of time. One is at the time of balance sheet restatement, other one at the time of settlement. You will get exchange gain or exchange loss. Shall we? Okay. The first one, sales to A. What is the value at which it was recorded? 62,500, which was given. Everybody, amount at the time of settlement. 60,000. So we recorded the sales as 62,500. What is resulting from this? Debtors are, everybody, the debtors recorded 62,500 was settled at, resulting in exchange loss of 2,500. Understood? Next one, we find purchases. Purchases. What is the value at which it is recorded? 85,000. What is the amount of settlement? 83,000. So please understand, it is creditors. Everybody, creditors amount which was recorded at 85,000 was settled at 83,000. We paid less, resulting in a gain of 2,000. Everybody, then sales on extended credit. Credit. What is the value recorded? 62,500. It's given. Is it given? 62,500 is given. Okay. So what is the amount of restatement which is not given? We should do that, correct? Okay. So it is 50,000 into 50,000 into 1 point. So 2 rupees. Okay. That is closing rate. Extended credit, pound, GBP 1.25. It was 1.25 and here it is 2 rupees. Fine. So it is, how much is the amount? 1 lakh. Resulting in, this is debtors. Debtors originally recorded at, now restated at, resulting in gain of 37,500. Are you following this? Okay, so which means it is not always increase means gain, decrease in a loss. It is not like that. It all depends upon the nature of item also. It depends upon whether it is debtors or creditors. Next one. What is the next one? Purchase of plant and machinery on credit or plant on credit. So what is involved is again creditor. Understood? So creditor. What is the amount at which it is recorded? 3 lakh. Okay. So restated. How many? What is the currency? GBP. So 2 lakh into 2 rupees. How much? 4 lakh. Everybody, it is resulting into creditor. We recognize 360, restated as 4 lakhs, resulting in loss of 40,000. Everybody, next. Loan, borrowing. The enterprise have borrowed money which was recorded at 80, restated to 80,000. Everybody? So a loan which is repayable which was recognized at 82. Now it was restated at 80,000. So the loan amount is getting reduced, resulting in gain of 2,000. $41. Okay. 42,500. Everybody? So this will be, it will be recognized in P&L. Understanding? And in P&L, it can be netted off. So what is that net? Net exchange loss of rupees 1,000, local currency. Of local currency, rupees 1,000. So which means the point we are conveying is that there is absolutely no difference between whether it is sale of goods or assets or borrowings, or it could be whatsoever. AS11, this is the treatment. Understood? These things I will change in another 10 minutes. Everybody? So the present position is that absolutely there is no difference between anything relating to asset, loan relating to asset, general loan, sale of goods, purchase of goods, absolutely no difference. Any exchange gain or loss will go to P&L. Right? Okay. Now let us also complete as a formality, only question number 2 and 3 are added. Now since we have completed one, it's as good as 2 and 3 over, but still we like to complete that and presently understanding the present status of AS11, right? So let us take question number 2 and 3 also. Question number 2. A Limited effected credit sales to USA company to the extent of $40,000 on 2/3/2012 when exchange rate prevailed 45.33, but the bill is not settled on 31st March 2012 when the exchange rate settled at 46.72. The bill is realized by 27 June 2012 when realization totaled rupees 18,77,200. How much of these realizations shall be accounted in the respective periods? Is a requirement. Give journal entries. Let me add that also. No mere computation. I want you to give journal entries in the books of A Limited. So what is that A Limited have done? Sales or purchases? Sales. So credit sales or cash sales? So what is the entry? Debtors to sales. Who is the debtor here? USA company. So thereby you can make the entry USA company to sales. Everybody, what is the date? Let us make entries in the books of A Limited. In question number 2, we are just making entries in the books of A Limited. In the first one, USA company to sales. How many dollars? $40,000 into 45.33. 13,200. 18 lakh 13,200. Transaction should be recorded at the rate prevailing on the date of transaction. What is the date? 2/3/2012. Then, if the balance sheet date comes before the settlement, then monetary items, if any, shall be restated. In this, sales is monetary item. Sales is not monetary item. Half sleeve mode, So please respond. It is the debtor USA company which is monetary item. Everybody, so thereby on what date? 31st March 2012. We'll restate USA company amount. We understand it is $40,000. Now we'll have an exchange rate of 46.72, correct? So it is 40,000 into 46.72 minus 18 lakh 13,000 or 40,000 into 46.72 minus 45.33. In any way we can do, correct? So it is it increasing or decreasing? So you're debiting USA company debit. Debtors value increasing. And is it gain or loss? Debtors, receivable increasing. So it is gain. Exchange gain. It is $40,000 into 46.72 minus 45.33. 55,600. And the gain will be recognized in the P&L, correct? Okay, and with that entry I am not making. Next we are proceeding to the next settlement date. What is the settlement date? 27th. Okay. 27/6/2012. We have bank collection from debtors, bank debit to debtors usually, correct? So this bank debit, how much we are collecting? 18 lakh 77,200 to USA company, 18 lakh 68,000. From where you get this amount? After restatement, the debtors is 18 lakh 68,800. So 2 exchange gain 8,400. Exchange gain is 8,400. Everybody? Okay. So then this gain will be transferred to profit and loss account. That entry we are not making. So we are just showing how much of gain is accounted in each period. In the year of 11-12 we are accounting a gain of 55,000, and in the year 12-13 we are accounting a gain of 8,400. Right? Okay. So kindly read question number 3. You understood this? So whatever points we have just noted, simple points, applying that points in this problem, that is what we have done in question number 1 and question number. Kindly try question number 3. Same way, give entries. It's like ditto the same problem. So only thing is it is creditors. அதே மாதிரி debtors salesனே copy பண்ணக்கூடாது, because amount alone will be changed and recording as debtors. Creditors. Okay. So happens to be this purchases transaction. We find it is purchase from USA company. On 2nd February 22, purchase account debit to USA company, 19 lakh 3,860. 19 lakh 3,860. 42,045.33. 31st March 2012. Creditors balance increases. It is resulting into exchange loss to USA company, 380. Then on USA company 19 lakh 240 2 bank. So now come back to that old issue what we are discussing. In the year 2003, settlement in different periods, recognition in different periods did not cause any issue. But the issue was caused because of the provision relating to the depreciable assets. The loan in relation to depreciable asset, exchange losses or exchange gain, exchange difference shall be adjusted against the cost of the asset. Was the old AS11. That was the provision. Understood? You will be adjusting against the cost of the asset. We took a loan $10,000 into 50 rupees, 5 lakhs. Everybody? Now we purchased the machinery for 5 lakhs. Understood? And after 2 years, the loan was settled. After 2 years, the loan was settled. So at that time when the loan was settled, it was 55 rupees. So 10,000 into 55, 5 lakh 50,000 we are paying. Extra 50,000 we are paying. The machinery was showing a value of, which was depreciable in 10 years time with the residual value nil. Or it is depreciable in 8 years time. It is depreciable in 5 lakhs divided by 8. 5 lakhs divided by 8. 62. So in the first year you depreciated 62,500 from 5 lakhs. Balance is 4 lakh 37,500. Balance is 4 lakh 37,000. In the second year what happens? Kavaninge mobile na vendam please. Okay. So 4 lakh 37,500. Now in the second year what happened? There is an exchange difference to the extent of 50,000. There is exchange difference to the extent of 50,000. The old practice is to adjust this 50,000 against 4,37,500. It's a gain or loss. Creditors we paid, or loan we paid more amount, it is a loss. So we'll be adding or deducting? Adding. So 437,500 will become 487,500, which will be depreciated over the prospective period now in the 7 years time. So 487,500 divided by 7 will be the depreciation from here on. Could you appreciate that? So that is how we used to account. Shall we? One thing is the depreciation computation. I don't think something very faster we are just computing and all. It is just the provisions of AS6 that whenever change in value occurs, then depreciation should be changed on a prospective basis, considering the remaining value and remaining life. Understood? Remaining value is 487,500, remaining life is 7. Could you appreciate that? So why should I learn old provision 7 is not there? And listen, what happened? This provision got implemented from 2003 and actually applicable from the accounting period commencing from 1/4/2004. Everybody? Okay. Now what happened? This provision was in conflict with Schedule 6. Not revised Schedule 6, Schedule 6, old Schedule 6. So the problem is that should we follow Schedule 6 or AS11 was a confusion that professionals had, enterprises had, because for chartered accountants they should enforce the compliance of accounting standards. Understood? But in Companies Act, financial statements are deemed not reflecting true and fair view if it is not in accordance with Schedule 6. Understood? So as per section 211, it says that what is true and fair view not discussed, but it says that if it is not in accordance with Schedule 6, it is deemed not reflecting true and fair view. So there was conflict. Respond. And thereby we had confusions. Actually we could have interpreted that accounting standard will override this Schedule 6 and all, but at that time there was always Schedule 6 have more power, empowerment than accounting standard. It is not like the present revised Schedule 6 which allows any accounting standard. If it is conflicting, then you will follow accounting standard. It was not like that. Understood? Thereby Institute itself gave the clarification that for the companies alone, they can continue to follow Schedule 6, companies alone. It is not for all enterprises. For the companies alone, they can continue to follow Schedule 6 requirement. For other enterprises, AS11, which means it is in relation to anything, should be charged only in P&L. Exchange gain or loss will go only in P&L. Companies alone, they can follow Schedule 6, which means as per Schedule 6 what? Any other losses in P&L in relation to depreciable asset means adjust against the value of the asset. Everybody. This happened up to 2006. Companies were very happy. In 2006, the NACAs have adopted the accounting standards issued by ICAI. National Advisory Committee on Accounting has adopted all the accounting standards issued by, thus amending Schedule 6. Not revised, just amending the Schedule 6, just removing the requirements of that adjustment against the cost of the that amount, that provision is removed, and they have adopted all the accounting standards issued by ICAI. Are you all following this? And thereby the financial statements, anything commencing on or after, in fact 7th December 2006. Understood? So if it is for such financial statements, what is applicable is only AS11. Are you all following this? This is old, only for history, just to know about what happened in history. Understood? It is no way going to come in the examination. So thereby companies now should, companies for all other organizations anyway, right from the 2003 onwards, they are following only AS11 only. Understood? So now for companies alone who are having an option of adjusting against the value of asset, and they can depreciate that over a period, that provision is not there. So from 2007-8 onwards, they have to follow AS11. Everybody. 7-8 they didn't had any problem. 7-8 no issue. They followed. Who followed? Companies followed. Everybody. 8-9 overall there was big recession. In the year 8-9 there was big recession, and country like us, I mean overall there was recession. Only the problem is that exchange rate. Whenever there is unstable there, our exchange rate will have big impact. Understood? Respond. We had huge exchange losses. The corporates which had borrowed money from foreign source for investment in their capital projects had huge exchange losses. Now because of their exchange loss, it happens to be that it may eat all their net worth also, or maybe huge part of reserves and surplus, substantially getting a beating in their net assets and all. Respond. So definitely it is either going to affect their share value, or it may going to affect their image of reporting profits, because it is huge exchange losses. Everybody. Now as per AS11 it shall be fully recognized in P&L. Understood? Please respond. So these corporates was having a struggle, so they took it to this governments. Obviously one, so UPA 1 just made out this pronouncement. So this corporate used their money power, and they just brought out through government the notification. Central government made a notification. It is a notification, not amendment to AS11 and all. In the year 2009 they brought out a notification. Everybody, what is that notification say? That notification says that companies, let us give an option. For companies alone, let us give an option. What option means? Those companies who wants to continue to follow AS11, that is charging to P&L, let them follow AS11. We'll also give another option. What is another option means? The exchange differences arising from that depreciable asset, let that be adjusted with the cost of the asset and charge depreciation accordingly. Understood? See, before this and all companies used to have this option. Now this notification says that if some of the companies now wants to follow AS11, they can follow AS11. So which means they need not follow any other rules and all. This notification doesn't mean that this according to notification, all companies should adjust against value of asset. We are not telling. Which means some companies, even though they are having foreign currency loan, even though they are having depreciable asset, even though they are having loss, they need not adjust against depreciable asset. They can show in P&L. Some companies, if they prefer to adjust against cost of the asset, they can adjust against cost of the asset. We are just giving an option to them. Understood? So option means two alternative. What is that? Either they can continue to apply or no, schedule 6 and all. It is a notification. Central government's notification dated 30th March 2009. Are you following? So this notification says an option to follow either AS 11 or the option provided in the notification. Could you appreciate that? Everybody. So again, corporates are very happy. Understood? Everybody? Okay. This notification validity was fixed as 31st March 2011. This notification validity was fixed as why? It is not that we expect that recession will end and all. It is that from 1/4/2011, at that time it was expected that IFRS will come into force. Understood? In the AS will come into force, and thereby government has got a commitment to comply with the IFRS requirement and all, and definitely thereby the notification validity was only 1/4/2011. Respond. Then what happened? So when notification was made? 30th March, and that also this notifications with retrospective effect from 2007-8 onwards. Because actually NACAS adopted this accounting standard only from that 7-8. So the company started suffering only from 7-8. What sort of suffering, sir? If you adjust this loss in asset, one day it will come to P&L. So it is not a big bonanza to them that you convert this loss into profit and all. This loss can be deferred, that's all. The loss can be, it's a question of booking it immediately in 1 year or in over a period of 5 to 6 years. That's the only thing we are making out. Could you appreciate that? Anyway, this loss will be booked in the form of depreciation if you are adding to the value of the asset. Is that clear, sir? Everybody? Okay, so thereby this notification which came in the year 2009 got its retrospective effect from the year 7-8 onwards. Understood? And validity was fixed as 31st March 2011. Are you following the history? Okay, history, geography only we are teaching now in relation to AS 11, not the current position. And then in 2011 March, they felt that IFRS is not going to come on 1/4/2011 onwards. Thereby the notification was extended to 11/12, which means the notification validity extended up to 31st March 2012. Everybody. Then in December 2011, they realized the fact that in 12/13 also IFRS won't come. Everybody. Thereby Department of Company Affairs, everybody, they brought out an amendment in AS 11. It's not institute, it's a Department of Company Affairs brought out an amendment in AS 11, which is what we are going to apply now. Everybody, in paragraph 46, to extend this facility to the companies, for a few more years. They wanted to extend up to 2020, and they brought out an amendment. But the amendment was made in such a way that it had lots of loss, and if that amendment is applicable or amendment is applied, then no companies can avail the benefit. It was drafted in such a way that it was having lots of errors. Are you following this? And thereby, for the first time, they inserted another paragraph. After immediately, the next moment, next day, they inserted another paragraph 46A. Paragraph 46, extending the facility to the companies for an indefinite period, for all the companies. So why the error was there, I will tell you. The option which was given in the year 2009 was irrevocable option, which means once applied, then it cannot be reversed, which means the 2009 notification says that once the option is exercised, it cannot be reversed. Are you following? What sort of reverse, sir? 1 year I will adjust against cost of the asset. Next year exchange loss, can I take it to P&L? Not possible. Once you decided to adjust in cost of the asset, then for life you should adjust in that too up to 31st March 2011. Understood? So thereby in paragraph 46 it was given a point that whichever companies have opted for the option, for them it is extended. Are you following? Say there are many companies who didn't exercise the option because they know benefit is only for 2 more years. Up to 31st March 2011 only. Now it is extended for 2020 and all. There are many companies want to exercise the option. Are you following? Everybody. And thereby they thought that it is fair to give all the companies a fair chance to adopt this option, and thereby from 1/4/2012 onwards, any loss arising, profit arising, those companies can make this option, and once the option is exercised from the year 12-13 onwards, then the option is irrevocable. Could you appreciate that? So that is what 46A. Now let us understand the provisions of para 46A, which is a definite question coming this time. Understood? The paragraph, the provisions of para 46A. So forget all the history. Now what is it 46A says that? This 46A is applicable only to companies. That you understand. Which means whatever we have learned in relation to loan or assets or anything, any difference will go to P&L as per AS 11 issued by ICI. As per the AS 11 issued by ICI, still the position is that any difference will go only to P&L. Understood? As per the accounting standard issued by the Department of Companies Act, the Companies Act adopted accounting standards alone will have this amendment. So this amendment is not there in AS 11 issued by ICI. Please understand that. So there are 2 accounting standards. One thing is that the Department of Company Affairs have adopted all the accounting standards issued by. They brought out an amendment in AS 11. That amendment is not there in AS 11. Please understand. So it is not applicable for any other enterprises. It is applicable only for, even for an LLP it is not applicable. Understood? Even for LLP also it is not applicable. Partnership firm or any other organization it is not. It is applicable only for a company. So we like to understand the provisions of para 46A. Shall we? Everybody? Okay. Though we are actually discussing about the adjustment to be made against the cost of asset. There are actually 2 significant provisions. Shall we? Everybody? So, treatment of exchange difference. Exchange difference. As per para 46A of AS 11. Everybody? First, to understand this, we classify monetary item into any exchange difference arising from the short-term monetary item will continue to be applied as per AS 11. That is charged to P&L. So even if it is relating to some assets, even if it is 4 months credit, some exchange difference arising in relation to asset, but that won't be adjusted against the value of asset, that will be taken only in P&L. So first of all, you should know that amendment is applicable only for the long-term monetary item. Then the question arises, before we understand the provisions, what are long-term monetary item? So monetary item which will have a period of, a maturity period of 12 months or more. It is not more than 12 months. Just 12 months means it is long-term monetary item. So any monetary item having a maturity period of 12 months or more will be considered as long-term. Other than long-term is short-term, for which this amendment is not applicable. Right? Sorry, it is applicable only for long-term monetary item. This long-term monetary item means it could be receivable or it could be borrowed money, or it could be the loan extended also. Understood? Whatever be the case. In relation to depreciable fixed asset, if it is in relation to depreciable, then the exchange difference will be adjusted against the value of fixed asset. It could be gain or it could be loss. You can't adopt this partially. If you adopt this amendment, then you should comply with this amendment. Could you appreciate that? So thereby it says that in relation to depreciable fixed asset, then it will be adjusted against value of fixed asset. It will be adjusted against the value of fixed asset. It could be gain or loss, because you can't say, an enterprise can't take a stand saying that loss I will adjust, gain means I will take in P&L. That is not possible. Understood? A gain now what you will show in P&L as if boosting your profit. Loss now you will show in asset and slowly you will depreciate. That is not acceptable. Could you appreciate that? So it has to be completely adopted. So which means it is gain or loss will be adjusted against the value of fixed asset. The moment value of fixed asset changes, then depreciation will change on a prospective basis. Whenever depreciation changes, you should consider two factors. What are the two factors? Remaining value, remaining life, remaining depreciable amount and remaining life. That is what you should consider. Could you appreciate that? If it is in relating to others, it is not merely one change brought out this amendment. There are two changes. One is, if the long-term monetary item not relating to depreciable fixed assets, then immediately don't think that as per AS 11 and all. The exchange difference will be recognized in this account called FCMITDA. Foreign currency monetary item translation difference account. Foreign currency monetary item translation difference account, FCMITDA. It will be recognized in FCMITDA, and that will be amortized over the period of long-term monetary item. Suppose the loan is repayable in 4 years. The loan is repayable in 4 years. Then the exchange difference will be amortized to P&L. When I say amortized to P&L, it could be to credit side or it could be to debit side. Because it is an exchange loss means it will go to P&L debit side. If it is exchange gain means it will go to P&L credit side. So FCMITDA can be showing debit balance or credit balance. So that will go to, depending upon debit balance or credit balance, it will go to either debit of P&L or credit of P&L. Please respond. So initially it is recognized in an account called FCMITDA, and it will be amortized to P&L. Amortized to P&L means transferring to P&L. Understood? Over the period of long-term monetary item. So if the long-term monetary item is having only 2 years now, in 2 years time, or 5 years now, 5 years time. Could you appreciate that? Now once it is adjusted against the value of fixed asset, everybody, then depreciation will be calculated based on the remaining life of asset or remaining life of monetary item. It is depreciated over the remaining life of asset. Are you following? And here what you consider is the life of monetary item. Here the life of asset. Even if the monetary item going to be repaid in 2 years, our remaining life is 9 years means we will amortize in 9 years. Could you appreciate that? Here it is amortized in the life of monetary item. Could you appreciate that? Para 46A, amendment to 46, insertion of 46A, provisions. Applicable only for companies. Monetary item, exchange difference arising from monetary item. In that we have short term, applicable only for long term monetary item. It is not applicable for, which means wherever it is not applicable, then you will follow AS 11. According to AS 11, any difference will go to P&L. Understand? Any difference will go to, except there also there is exception. What is that? Except those differences which has been adjusted as borrowing cost by AS 16. Some portion of exchange loss will be adjusted by AS to the borrowing cost. Difference between interest in foreign currency and interest in local currency. You remember AS 16 like that we discussed. Anyway, so to that extent it will be adjusted against the AS 16. Clear? Okay. Now long-term monetary item. Now listen, one more important part is that once you apply the amended provisions of AS 11, everybody, then you won't follow AS 11. Respond. Which means you won't adjust in P&L. Similarly, if you follow this, then AS 16 also not applicable. If you follow this provision, then AS 16 also not applicable, the exchange difference will be accounted only through this provision and not as per borrowing cost and all. Only when you have AS11 application, then you have A16 application. Understood? For those monetary items, for which you are going to apply the amended provisions of AS11, everybody. For which AS16 provision not applicable. Could you appreciate that? Anyway, so coming back to this issue. So any long exchange difference arising from restatement of long term, if it is in relation to depreciable fixed assets, shall be adjusted against the value of fixed assets. If it is not relating to value of fixed assets, for example, I took a loan for my working capital purpose. I took a loan, foreign currency loan for my working capital purpose, not for fixed asset. Everybody. So any gain or loss arising from that working capital loan will be recognized in, not P&L, will be recognized in FCMITDA. Understood? Everybody. So which means, suppose I have two loans. I have one loan is relating to fixed asset. One loan is relating to, both are foreign currency loan. Everybody, I am getting exchange losses from both the loans. Understood? One exchange loss I am adjusting against the value of, the other one I am directly transferring in P&L. Possible? No. Once you adopt this amendment, it has to be in full. There can't be partial adoption. Once you adopt the amendment, it has to be in full. There can't be. So which means, what is in full means any long-term monetary item exchange differences. If it is in relation to fixed asset, adjust against the value of. If it is not relating to the fixed asset, then it is taken in an account called FCMITDA, and you can only amortize. You can only amortize to P&L. Understood? Whatever exchange difference will come, one day or other will go to. The question is, should it be deferred or should be recognized immediately? AS11 says immediately. Note the amendment says defer. Deferral either in the form of depreciation or in the form of amortizing FCMITDA, but only deferral. Understood? It's your option to decide which option you want. And already those decisions would have been made in the year 12, 13. Everybody. So 12, 13, you have decided to continue with the AS11, you can continue. Respond. Charging to? Then again in the year 13, 14, you can't follow the notification. Once adopted, irrevocable option. Could you appreciate that? So these are the points you should be knowing. So thereby, according to the amended provisions of 46A, any difference arising from restatement or settlement of long-term monetary item, if it is relating to depreciable fixed asset, adjusted against the value of fixed asset. If it is not relating to fixed asset, then recognizes in a FCMITDA and amortized to P&L over the life. And the latest notification by the institute, which is there in RTP also, say presentation part only. The question is, where I will show FCMITDA? You are telling it is to be amortized to P&L. So amortized means it should be an asset or liability. So thereby there was lot of controversies involved here, and there were people showing this as other current assets, other non-current assets in the asset side, and in the liability side it can be other current liability, other non-current liability and all. So much issues are there, and it should make the notification that it can't be an asset or liability. It has to be in form of equity, and thereby it should come under the head reserves and surplus. This FCMITDA should appear under the head reserves and surplus, because in revised schedule 6 there is no place of FCMITDA. Revised schedule doesn't mention anything about FCMITDA. Could you appreciate that? So thereby you should have notified that this FCMITDA should appear under the head reserves and surplus, which means from reserves and surplus only it is amortized to P&L, and again it is going to come under reserves and surplus only. Understood? Everybody? Sir, but if it is debit balance, sir, FCMITDA showing debit balance, reserves and surplus as a negative item. Understood? So whether it is credit balance or debit balance, it will appear under reserves and surplus as a negative item or a positive item. Could you appreciate that? That was a recent notification, very recent notification by the institute, where to present FCMITDA. Understood? So this is the present stand of amendment provisions of 46A. Understood? Paragraph 46A of AS 11. Understood? Applicable only for any other organization. Any differences arises, short term, long term, that asset, this asset, anything. P&L. Understood? Everybody. But we say it is P&L, but there AS 16 will interfere. Understood? Here AS 16 will not. The provision to be accounted only through this particular provision, either adjust against the value of fixed asset. Understood? We don't say borrowing cost and all. Exchange difference adjusted against fixed asset. Exchange difference put into FCMIT and then amortize. Everybody? Pakka? Okay, question number 5. Explain briefly the accounting treatment needed in the following cases as per AS 11. The effects of change in foreign exchange rates. Sundry debtors include amount receivable from TED, rupees 5 lakhs, recorded at the prevailing exchange rate on the date of sales. Transaction recorded at $1 equal to 38.70. Long-term loan from a US company amounting to rupees 60 lakhs. It was recorded $1 35.60. Taking exchange rate prevailing on the date of transaction. Another long-term loan was there in pound sterling for purchase of machinery amounting to rupees 10 lakhs. It was recorded pound 62.80. Exchange rate at the end of the year whereas under dollar receivable 45.80, pound 72.30, dollar payable 45.90. So you are supposed to provide the treatment, accounting treatment needed in respect of the following items. Shall we? Okay. The first one is the debtors. Sundry debtors include amount receivable from TED, which means it is so far not settled. Initially was recorded as rupees 5 lakhs, which was based on the exchange rate $1 equal to 38.70. Everybody? Okay. So what we would like to do is that 5 lakhs divided by 38.70 is the number of dollars, which will be multiplied by dollar receivable or dollar payable. Is it dollar receivable or dollar payable? Dollar receivable. Understood? We have to receive dollar. Everybody. We give dollar. Respond. For conversion. We get dollars. Respond. We give dollar. For the bank it is dollar receivable rate. Do you appreciate that? So it's very simple for us. Receivable means them also receivable. So what we apply is only receivable rate, which is how much? 45.80 or 45.90? 45.80. So here we have dollar receivable as well as dollar, and we are going to apply dollar receivable rate. Everybody? Okay, other one. Then long-term loan from a US company. Before that, the difference will come. Will be booked as gain or loss in P&L. Gain or loss in P&L. Correct? Gain or loss in P&L. Now listen, but if they have followed the amendment, then also P&L only, because it is generally a short term. Debtors, na? Short term. Could you appreciate that? So there is no options there whether amendment applied or not applied. Could you appreciate that? Okay. Long-term loan taken from US company amounting to 60 lakhs. It was recorded $1 equal to 35.60. Correct? Loan was taken. For us dollar payable. For us dollar payable means we need dollar. Again the bank has to sell dollar to us. Correct? Thereby we will apply the dollar payable, which is 45 point. We will get exchange difference. This exchange difference will provide two treatment. What is that? If the amended provisions applied, then it will be recognized in FCMITDA because it was not relating to any assets, and thereby it will be recognized in and will be amortized to P&L over the period of long term loan. If the amended provision not applied, then the entire difference will be recognized in P&L, gain or loss, whatever be the case. Could you appreciate that? That is how you should provide accounting treatment. You should know that if the amended provision applied, amended provision not applied. Clear? In the examination, they may be specific also. They may tell that amended provision applied or not applied and all. If it is not given, you should give both the way answer. Is that clear? Everybody? Okay, next. Another long-term loan, because it's an RTP question, sir, every chance it can come. That is why we are just discussing it. The question number 5 and question number 6 are very, very important questions. A highly expected question in the examination. Another long-term loan was there in first 3 questions. Don't think that it will come and all. Understood? And the kalana over. So for knowledge sake we solved. Like that kalana super. Don't think. So like this question only come. This is also easy only. You should be knowing the provision. Another long-term loan was there in pounds sterling for purchase of machinery amounting to rupees. It was recorded, and pounds only one rate given. Difference between 62.80 and 72. Is the exchange difference? Everybody. Now this difference, what will your answer? If the amended provisions applied, then adjust against the value of the asset and change depreciation accordingly. Or entire difference will be recognized in P&L. Understood? So this is the summary that we will be providing now. Shall we? So one by one. They are asking you accounting treatment for various transactions. We will take one by one transaction. Exchange difference. Arising from restatement of sundry debtors. Within bracket, I am noting that as short term monetary item. Recorded value how much? 5 lakhs. Everybody, recorded value is 5 lakhs. Balance sheet value will be 5 lakhs divided by 38.70 into receivable 45.80. 5 lakh 731. Debtors value is increasing. It is what? Yes. So exchange gain 91,731. Correct? No conditional answers and all to be recognized in statement of P&L. Exchange gain will be recognized in statement of P&L. Exchange difference arising from restatement of long term loan. So long term monetary item. Recorded value. Recorded value is 60 lakhs. Balance sheet restated value. So how to take restated value? 60 lakhs divided by 35.60 into 45.90. A loan value was increased. Loan value was increased. Exchange loss. So accounting treatment. Will be recognized in FCMI TDA. You should write in full in the examination at least. If not applied, this will be recognized in FCMI TDA and amortized over the period of loan. If not applied, will be recognized immediately in the statement of P&L. The statement of P&L. The exchange loss, either it is taken the debit of FCMI TD and will be amortized over the period of loan. If not applied, the provision is not applied, will be immediately recognized in the statement of P&L. Everybody? Are you getting clarity? The last transaction. It is in relation to a fixed asset. Exchange difference arising from restatement of long-term loan relating to purchase of machinery, long-term monetary item. Exchange difference arising from restatement of long-term loan relating to purchase of machinery, long-term monetary item. Recorded value, recorded amount. How much? 10 lakhs. Balance sheet restated. 10 lakhs by 62.80, 72.30, 51. Exchange loss. This exchange loss, again treatment. If 46A applied, you should write in full. If not applied. If 46A applied, adjust against value of fixed asset, machinery. If not applied, recognize in statement of P&L. immediately. So that is how we understanding the provisions of 46A, as well as if not applied, what will happen. So that is only an option, but that is an irrevocable option. Once adopted, it is not reversible. (46) why we are not applying now? Through 46, the benefits was extended only to those enterprises which were having the benefits under the notification. Understood? And thereby only this 46A was inserted, giving the benefits to all the companies. And 46 provides a time limit up to 2020, which is not provided in 46A. So, which means it is indefinite period. They may curtail this at any time once the Ind AS is in mandatory in force. Understood? So, they may curtail that. Question number 6, page number 225. Option Limited is engaged in the manufacturing of steel. For its steel plant, it required machineries of latest technology. It usually resorts to long-term foreign currency borrowing for its fund requirements. On April 11, 2011, it borrowed $1 million from International Funding Agency USA when exchange rate was $1.52. Funds were used for acquiring machineries on the same day to be used in 3 different steel plants. The useful life of machinery is 10 years and residual value 20 lakhs. Earlier also, the company used to purchase machineries out of foreign borrowings. The foreign exchange difference arising on such borrowing were charged to P&L account and were not capitalized, even though the company had an option to capitalize it as per notified AS 11 notification issued by MCA in the year 2009. Now, for this new purchase of machinery, Option Limited is interested to avail the option of capitalizing the same to the cost of the asset. Exchange rate on 31st March 2012 is $1.51. Assume that on 31st March 2012, Option Limited is not having any long-term foreign currency borrowing except for the amount borrowed for machinery purchase on 1st of April 2011. Can Option Limited capitalize the exchange difference to the cost of the asset on 31st March 2012? If yes, then calculate depreciation amount on machinery as on 31st March 2012. Would your answer differ if Option Limited was not a company and was a LLP? For the first one, can Option Limited capitalize the exchange difference to the cost of the asset on 31st March 2012? If yes, calculate depreciation. Correct? Definitely yes. Okay. And similarly for the second one also it is yes only, because answer will differ if it is not company, it is only an LLP, then the amended provisions are not applicable. Right? First of all, why such a question is asked in spite of being a company? Why this question is asked means through 46, people who read 46 will feel that it is not applicable for Option Limited. Because in 2009 when the notification came, at that time also they had foreign currency borrowing. At that time also that foreign currency borrowing was relating to fixed asset, but they didn't adopted the notification. Understood? Please understand, in the year 2009, when the notification was introduced in the year 2009, at that time also they had the practice of borrowing from a foreign country only relating to the depreciable fixed asset. Correct? That time any differences they were charging to P&L account. The exchange difference, earlier also the company used to purchase machineries out of foreign borrowings. Exchange difference arising on such borrowing were charged to and were not capitalized, even though the company had an option to capitalize. Notification issued by MCA in the year 2009. Could you appreciate that? And para 46 says that the benefits can be there only for companies which have adopted the notification. And thereby only for very limited companies this amended provision will benefit. And they understood the drafting and they just thought of giving the advantage to all the companies. Understood? So thereby the notification which came in the year 2011, December 2011, apply from 11-12, not 12-13, I'm sorry. It is applicable from 11, 12. Understood? So thereby this company, even though they didn't adopt the notification issued in 2009, para 46A provides the benefit to adopt this 46A benefits right from 11, 12 onwards. Understood? And thereby this company Option Limited can capitalize the exchange difference to the cost of the asset as per amended or as per the inserted paragraph 46A. As per paragraph 46, are they allowed? No. As per 46A, they are allowed. In fact, both conveys the same points only. Understood? Do you follow this? Why such a question? Validity of this question, why comes na? 46 says that this provision is applicable only for the companies which have adopted the notification. 46A applicable to all the companies. Understood? Please respond. Okay. So thereby, as per para 46A of AS 11, the option of capitalization or deferring the exchange differences in relation to foreign currency long-term monetary item is applicable to all the companies. Please. As per para 46A. As per para 46A of AS 11. As per para 46A of AS 11. The option of capitalizing the exchange difference, the option of capitalizing the exchange difference to the cost of asset, to the cost of the asset, or deferment of exchange difference or deferment of exchange difference arising from long-term monetary item is applicable to all the companies, irrespective of the accounting treatment, till 2010-2011. So which means whether they have adopted the notification at that time or not adopted, so for all companies it is applicable. Thus option limited, we have just made a point about AS 11, correct? And now we are concluding that thus option limited can capitalize the exchange difference to the cost of the asset. Thus option limited can capitalize the exchange difference to the cost of the asset. Everybody? Thus option limited can capitalize the exchange difference to the cost of the asset. Now let us calculate. If yes, we have provided the yes answer. Now we like to calculate what? Depreciation. This is the very first year, correct? Now first paragraph provides information. The borrowing is for $1 million, 10 lakhs dollars. On that date exchange rate was 52. So 10 lakhs into 52. 10 lakhs into 52, how much? 520 lakhs. Everybody. 520 lakhs, and which was used for purchase of machinery. So purchase of machinery is for 520 lakhs. Everybody. So and 20 lakhs is the residual value. So thereby depreciable amount is 500 lakhs. Useful life of the machinery is no information given, so straight line method. Everybody, depreciation would have been 50 lakhs. Depreciation would have been 50 lakhs. But we can't charge because in the first year end change happened. At the end of first year itself, the change has happened. Could you appreciate that? So what is the change means? At the end of the year, $1 equal to 51. Everybody, $1 has become 51. So from 52, it has become 51. Is it gain or loss? Please understand. From 52, it has become 51. Correct? Above our 52 lakhs liability will be reduced to 51 lakh. 52 lakhs liability will be reduced to. So we are getting a gain. So this gain will be reduced from the cost of the asset. Understood? And thus you will be charging the depreciation based on the revised value. Shall we proceed? Okay. Now let us show the computation. Depreciation for the year 11-12. Depreciation to be charged by Option Limited for the year 11-12. Depreciation to be charged by Option Limited for the year 11-12. Depreciation to be charged by Option Limited for the year 11-12. So what it is cost of the asset recorded. Cost of the asset recorded on 1/4/2011. It is 10 lakhs dollars into rupees 52. 520 lakhs. Everybody? Exchange gain. Adjusted here. So it is 10 lakhs dollar into 52 minus 51. How much? 10 lakhs. So it is 510 lakhs. Everybody? Now this is adjusted cost. Then residual value. This you should not forget. How much? 20 lakhs. So depreciable amount. Depreciable amount 490. Useful life 10 years. Depreciation for 11-12 is 490 by 10, it is 49 lakhs. The second part of the answer, how do you answer? The provisions of 46A applicable only to companies, and thereby if Option Limited is LLP, then Option Limited cannot capitalize the exchange difference to the cost of the asset. It shall be recognized as exchange gain in the P&L. That information you should write. Understood? So for 8 marks such a question can come, but you should write the provisions and then you should say that it is applicable to first Option Limited. Then you should show this computation. Then you should write that the provision is applicable only for companies, not for LLP. So thereby, if Option Limited is an LLP, the entire exchange difference will be recognized in statement of P&L. Understood? Everybody? So thus we are completing first part of AS11, which is accounting for foreign currency transaction. What is left is translation and accounting for forward contract. Understood?